a whisper from the past, woven through the mists of time in the rugged, quiet mountains of Bulgaria, a landscape that hides secrets. In a small village called Rupide, an elderly woman lived. Her name was Vangelia Pandeva Gushtarova, but the world remembers her as Baba Vanga. Blind since childhood, her eyes remained closed to our world, but they were wide open to the currents of destiny and the shadows of tomorrow. Before her death in 1996, she left behind a series of startling warnings, among them a specific, chilling vision focused on the year 2026. She painted a picture of a devastating conflict unfolding across Europe, a tremor destined to send profound spiritual and physical shockwaves across our entire globe. We often dismiss these prophecies as folklore or myth, but look at the geopolitical map of the world today. The lines are being redrawn. Tensions are simmering beneath the surface, a palpable unease suggesting that the veil between our reality and the unseen forces of fate is thin. Her ancient vision speaks of an overwhelming assault, shattering infrastructure and defenses, hinting at a cleansing fire that leaves the continent forever changed. As we approach the threshold of 2026, the unfolding saga feels increasingly dire. Instability is no longer a distant threat. It is our current reality. The ongoing war in Eastern Europe has already etched sharp divides into the global community, creating a chasm where unity and peace once struggled. It has revived ancient fears of nuclear annihilation and displaced millions of souls, casting a long shadow that grows darker with each passing day. The prospect of conflict spreading to other nations makes Vanga's prophecy seem eerily plausible, as if a fated path is already being trodden. NATO countries face intensifying pressure, while the fracture from the collective spirit of international cooperation deepens. The world feels brittle and ready to break. Are the signs we ignore today the warnings meant specifically for 2026? Is it possible that these ominous predictions are already taking shape? Let us step into the sacred, dark space of her startling vision and ponder the profound implications for the very future of our shared world. The chasm has already been created. We are witnessing a profound historical fracture, a severing of the collective spirit across the continent. For centuries, Europe has struggled with internal divisions, rooted in territorial disputes and deep-seated ethnic tensions. But the modern era promised peace. Instead, NATO countries supply weapons, while diplomatic ties are systematically severed, isolating nuclear powers in a high-stakes, terrifying standoff. This geopolitical fracture heightens the exact fear Vanga prophesied, a localized conflict violently spiraling into a catastrophic global crisis. History reminds us with chilling clarity that both World War I and World War II originated right here, on this scarred continent. And the ancient tribal drumbeats are returning. Nationalism is rising rapidly, drowning out the fragile calls for European unity. Economic instability is rampant. The political divisions inside major powers like France, Germany, and the UK are tearing at the fabric of trust. We are seeing unprecedented social unrest. Protests fill the streets, driven by energy shortages, inflation, and the lingering shadows of past pandemics. These growing internal divisions critically weaken the very soul of the European Union, leaving the continent acutely vulnerable to external threats. If Baba Vanga's 2026 prophecy of an all-encompassing European war materializes, the consequences will transcend any physical borders. Europe serves as a central hub for global trade and politics. A war of such magnitude would collapse international markets overnight. It would unleash an unprecedented humanitarian disaster. Millions more would be forced to flee their homes, carrying only what they can hold. The very foundation of European society could crumble under the sheer weight of sustained conflict, leaving behind a profound spiritual vacuum. The global ripple effect would be catastrophic. The world remains utterly unprepared for the devastation that would follow, a devastation that might awaken dormant truths. But the storm brewing in Europe isn't her only terrifying vision. As the physical world fractures, she foresaw an even deeper invasion into our very minds. Among her most fascinating and, frankly, unsettling predictions for 2026 is a dramatic and irreversible shift in human communication. She foresaw a world where spoken language becomes obsolete, replaced by a widespread psychic awakening, full-blown human telepathy. For decades, this specific prophecy was dismissed as pure science fiction, relegated to comic books and mystical folklore. But walk into any advanced neuroscience laboratory today, and that exact prophecy is unfolding right now under cold, sterile lights. Researchers are making unprecedented, terrifying strides in understanding exactly how the human brain processes and transmits complex electrical information. Meet the new frontier, brain-computer interfaces, or BCIs. These are devices explicitly designed to read the silent, electrical whispers of our neurons. We are already planting microscopic threads into human brains, successfully decoding abstract thoughts into digital commands in real time. Paralyzed individuals are currently testing these implants, controlling computer cursors, playing games, and typing messages using nothing but their pure intentions. To the medical community, it is a miracle. A profound leap in human consciousness that bypasses the broken physical limitations of the body. But the technology is advancing at an exponential, frightening rate. It will not stop at simply moving a mouse on a screen. Scientists predict that by 2026, these interfaces could cross the ultimate threshold, enabling individuals to transmit thoughts directly into another person's mind. A novel form of silent communication. A direct, unfiltered link between souls that completely bypasses the need for speech, gestures, or lies. This is the telepathy Baba Vanga saw. Not a mystical awakening born of magic, but a chilling, inescapable technological reality. But this silent communion of minds comes with a terrifying, unspoken price. A price paid in the currency of our own freedom. If a machine, a corporation, or a government can read your brainwaves, where do we draw the line to protect the sacred sanctuary of your thoughts? In a world where neurotechnology becomes commonplace, the boundaries between private and public thoughts completely dissolve. Your innermost fears laid bare for extraction. How would society adjust to a reality where secrets no longer exist? Imagine tech monopolies monetizing your raw, unfiltered emotional state in real time. We are walking blindly into a cognitive surveillance state. And just as we mapped the mind, Baba Vanga predicted we would also attempt to conquer the flesh. She foresaw another awe-inspiring, yet terrifying medical revolution for 2026, the widespread emergence of lab-grown human organs. A profound blurring of life and creation. Today, the chronic shortage of organ donors is a profound crisis of human suffering. Thousands pass away every single year simply waiting for a compatible match. But step inside the highly secured regenerative medicine laboratories of today, and you will see her impossible prophecy materializing before your very eyes. Scientists are no longer just treating damaged organs. They are literally manufacturing them. Stem cell research and 3D bioprinting are fundamentally changing our relationship with mortality. Using biological materials, complex cells, and synthetic proteins, researchers are currently printing layers of living tissue, cell by cell, with terrifying precision. They have already successfully grown miniature organoids in laboratory settings. While fully functional, complex hearts are still in development. The unprecedented speed of progress is staggering. It looks like a divine intervention, a reliable, renewable source of customized human organs that could eliminate transplant rejections entirely and save millions of lives. But as with all godlike technologies, a darker underbelly rapidly emerges. Who exactly will own the patents to human life when it is manufactured on an assembly line? The commercialization of organ growth raises horrifying ethical concerns. It threatens to create the ultimate, unbreakable biological divide between the rich and the poor. Will this miracle technology be available to the desperate masses? Or will it be exclusively reserved for those wealthy enough to purchase extended lifespans? The commodification of the human body is no longer a dystopian fantasy. We are actively building an industry where biological survival is a premium corporate subscription. And while we desperately attempt to re-engineer our frail physical bodies inside these sterile walls, another of Vanga's prophecies warns that the Earth itself is preparing to violently push back. One of her most unsettling predictions for 2026 is a violent environmental reckoning, drastic sea level rises, and the rapid, catastrophic melting of polar ice caps. Climate scientists today are echoing her exact warnings. The Earth's ancient, delicate rhythms are being completely disrupted, pushing us toward a fatal tipping point. According to current satellite data, the Greenland and Antarctic ice sheets are losing a staggering 413 gigatons of mass every single year. As these colossal ice sheets melt into the ocean, they trigger a terrifying feedback loop. Less white ice means less sunlight reflected back into space. The planet absorbs more heat, accelerating the collapse. It is a self-fulfilling prophecy of environmental devastation happening right now in real time. For major coastal cities worldwide, the rising tide is no longer a theoretical debate for the next century. It is an existential threat for 2026. Mass displacement, failing infrastructure, and ruined agricultural lands. We are creating a permanent climate diaspora born directly from our relentless consumption of fossil fuels. We are trapped in a desperate dual crisis, facing environmental collapse while simultaneously starving for the massive amounts of energy required to survive. Which brings us to another of Vanga's highly specific 2026 prophecies: the world-altering discovery of a groundbreaking new energy source, a divine gift that could finally break our catastrophic reliance on oil and coal. Many believe she was seeing the realization of nuclear fusion. Inside colossal, highly classified facilities like ITER, scientists are currently attempting to replicate the very power of the stars right here on Earth. Unlike traditional nuclear fission, fusion combines atomic nuclei to release virtually limitless, clean energy without the hazardous, toxic, radioactive waste. Recent breakthroughs in sustained plasma temperatures suggest we are agonizingly close. But it is a desperate, multi-billion-dollar race against the ticking climate clock. However, there is an alternative, far more bizarre interpretation of Vanga's 2026 energy prophecy. One that points away from Earth entirely. She specifically claimed humanity would begin an aggressive, desperate mission to tap into the hellish, incredibly hostile atmosphere of our sister planet, Venus. Venus, often referred to as Earth's twin due to its size, but in reality, it represents a terrifying, apocalyptic cautionary tale. Surface temperatures routinely soar to 900 degrees Fahrenheit. The atmospheric pressure is 90 times that of Earth. It is a literal, crushing inferno. Extracting energy from this hellscape seems not just impossible, but a defiance of the very laws of practical engineering. Yet desperation breeds innovation. Scientists are not looking at the melting surface. They are looking at the upper atmosphere, where violent, endless winds exceed 200 miles per hour. Harnessing these relentless kinetic forces with advanced, floating aerostat technology could theoretically provide an unprecedented, massive energy yield for Earth. NASA and the European Space Agency are already preparing. Real-world missions like Da Vinci and Veritas are scheduled to head back into the inferno. They are desperate to understand why Venus suffered a runaway greenhouse effect, a catastrophic fate that our own Earth is currently flirting with. But Vanga's terrifying visions of the cosmos did not stop at energy extraction. She saw something else waiting for us in the dark void. The final and arguably most profound prediction for 2026 is first contact, an encounter with extraterrestrial intelligence. For decades, the search for alien life was mocked as fringe science fiction, relegated to conspiracy theorists and blurry photographs. But recent, highly classified reports, officially released by the Pentagon and the US Congress, have entirely shattered that comfortable narrative. Military pilots are routinely encountering unidentified aerial phenomena, crafts moving in ways that completely defy our current understanding of physics in aerodynamics. No wings, no visible propulsion systems, capable of dropping thousands of feet in a fraction of a second without sonic booms. These are not weather balloons. They operate with a technology that is centuries, perhaps millennia, ahead of our own. We are being watched, and the government finally admits they do not know by whom. Baba Vanga warned that in 2026, the observers will stop observing. They will finally and undeniably make their presence known to humanity. The arrival of an advanced extraterrestrial civilization would instantly shatter the foundational frameworks of human society. Every religion, every earthly philosophy, and our entire arrogant understanding of human supremacy in the cosmos would be rewritten overnight. Are these entities bringing divine cosmic wisdom, or are they a hostile, darker force? Vanga's prophecy leaves their true intentions terrifyingly blank. While theologians grapple with the spiritual fallout, governments and global defense agencies are silently preparing for the absolute worst-case scenario. First contact isn't just a scientific milestone. It is a profound, irreversible initiation for a species that is still violently divided. And this reveals the true, underlying horror of Baba Vanga's vision for 2026. It is not just one isolated catastrophe. It is the terrifying convergence of multiple, world-altering events happening simultaneously. A perfect storm of our own making. A devastating war raging across the European continent, draining global resources and threatening nuclear escalation. The climate violently collapsing, swallowing coastlines, displacing millions, and sparking desperate wars over basic survival. Technology aggressively invading the private sanctuary of the human mind, destroying the last remnants of personal freedom and privacy. And the very definition of human life being manufactured, patented, and commodified in cold, sterile corporate laboratories. We are teetering on the edge of a precarious tipping point, a multi-front war against nature, technology, and the terrifying unknown of the cosmos. When these immense crises inevitably overlap, the global ripple effect will be catastrophic. The fragile fabric of modern society will simply tear apart. Vanga's warnings resonate louder today than ever before, emerging from the past to force us to ask a deeply uncomfortable question. Are we, as a species, spiritually and psychologically prepared for the absolute collapse of the world as we currently know it? The year 2026 is no longer a distant point on the horizon. It is the terrifying precipice upon which we currently stand. The psychological toll of these converging global crises is already rippling violently through our collective consciousness. A profound shared anxiety. There is a deep-seated feeling among the public that the familiar protective systems of our modern world are rapidly, irreversibly unraveling. Throughout history, the pattern is terrifyingly clear. When technological and physical power vastly outpaces our ethical frameworks, profound devastation inevitably follows. Our global institutions are fracturing under the sheer weight of these overlapping crises. Diplomacy is being rapidly replaced by desperate tribal isolation. The unified global cooperation required to face a collapsing climate, artificial minds, or extraterrestrial contact simply does not exist right now. We are rapidly acquiring godlike technologies, yet we remain hopelessly governed by the exact same ancient, primitive instincts that started our earliest wars. We possess the genius to map the neural pathways of the brain and the hubris to print the very flesh that houses it, but we lack the collective wisdom to wield these immense cosmic powers without fundamentally destroying ourselves in the process. Baba Vanga's dark visions, whether you view them as mystical prophecies or acute, intuitive warnings, force us to look violently inward. Perhaps her terrifying foresight wasn't meant to merely paralyze us with inevitable fear. Perhaps it was intended to serve as a sacred blueprint. What if the unsettling signs we are actively choosing to ignore today are the exact warnings we need to survive the coming crucible of 2026? The future remains uncertain, heavily veiled in cosmic mystery and human error. But the storm clouds are undeniably tangibly gathering. Whether through the whispers of an ancient prophecy or the cold, hard data of empirical science, the warning signs are etched into the fabric of reality. The clock is ticking toward 2026, and the world is about to find out if we are truly ready for what awaits in the dark. 2026, a year that stands as a terrifying singularity in human history, a point where all our actions and inactions forcefully collide. We are standing at the exact intersection of technological godhood and primitive self-destruction. We have built a world we are no longer equipped to control. Sociologists and historians call it the Great Filter, a theoretical, brutal, evolutionary wall that inevitably destroys civilizations before they can reach their full potential. With the climate physically collapsing beneath our very feet, rendering vast swaths of the planet entirely uninhabitable, our deepest, most private thoughts aggressively exposed and monetized by intrusive neural algorithms, and the sudden, undeniable realization that we are not alone, facing an intelligence vastly superior to our own in the dark void. Humanity is being forced into a brutal, inescapable crucible. This is not simply a sequence of unfortunate, random disasters. It is a profound, forced evolutionary leap. Baba Vanga's prophecies are essentially a mirror, reflecting our own terrifying potential back at us. How we choose to respond to these overlapping crises will permanently dictate the destiny of our species. The choice is agonizingly clear. Will we succumb to the tribal fear, the desperate nationalism, and the destructive wars that have always defined our darkest hours? Or will the sheer, terrifying magnitude of the threat finally force us into a unified, global consciousness? This is the true spiritual readiness she spoke of. Not a mystical religious awakening, but a profound, necessary psychological survival mechanism. It is a necessary shedding of our violent, archaic past in order to survive an incredibly volatile, technologically terrifying future. As the long, terrifying night of our ignorance ends, a profound, yet violently difficult new dawn approaches for 2026. Today, we walk blindly through our modern concrete jungles, staring down at glowing screens, entirely oblivious to the monumental shift rapidly approaching. We casually treat the future as a distant, abstract concept, but history does not care about our comfort or our ignorance. It demands evolution. Whether the ultimate threat emerges from the violently fractured, war-torn borders of Eastern Europe, dragging nuclear powers into a spiraling global conflict, or from the deeply invasive, unprecedented corporate colonization of our own neural pathways through advanced artificial intelligence and BCI interfaces, or from the violently rising, suffocating tides of a dying planetary ecosystem that we ourselves have recklessly pushed to the absolute brink, or from the chilling, silent depths of an occupied cosmos, forcing us to face entities vastly superior to our own primitive understanding. The brutal reality is that the year 2026 will not gently announce itself. It will crash into us with the force of destiny. Baba Vanga's astonishing prophecies, whether viewed as mystical foresight or merely brilliantly intuitive warnings, serve as the ultimate cosmic audit of humanity. The book of our divided past is finally closing. The terrifying, unwritten narrative of our future is currently being drafted by our choices today. So the final, haunting question we must ask ourselves isn't whether her predictions will come true down to the exact, terrifying letter. The real question is, when the perfect storm finally hits our shores, what kind of resilient species will it find waiting? Will it find a fractured, tribal society violently tearing itself apart for scraps? Or a unified world finally ready to evolve together? The digital clock is relentlessly ticking. 2026 is here. What do you truly believe awaits us in the coming dark? Tell us in the comments below. If you want to continue uncovering the hidden historical truths and geopolitical mysteries of our world, subscribe and join our ongoing investigation. Thank you for watching. Until next time, keep your eyes wide open. The future is always much closer than you think.